Well, it feels like we just started the Division Two men's college season, and already I'm talking about who might win conferences. But, the competitive balance is such, and some of the conference splits are such that I feel like it's kind of a fun thing to look at. First of all, I've actually got 5 conferences where I feel pretty confident in telling you who's going to be champion right off the bat. In a way, it's a bit of a shame because we'd like to see more competition. I think we do see more competition in the Allegheny, but IUP is still your number one team. They've just returned so many players to start with, and I'm not sure about the strength of everybody else. And I would say IUP is still your front runner there. Similarly, in the SCRC, Memphis, the national runner-up last year, you know what? There's nobody there really chasing them, and I think it's going to be tough for them. They're going to have to find someone else to play, to be honest, to be blunt. They've got to find someone they can play who will test them before they get into the postseason, because otherwise, well, it's difficult. And I have been proven wrong on that before. I mean, this is basically the South Africa model, right? The based from 1995 World Cup even out to the 2007 World Cup, where South Africa didn't necessarily blow people away in pool play, but they were solid and they were challenged, and that actually toughened themselves up for for winning a World Cup. And I kind of feel that's true for a lot of teams that go through, and that certainly has been borne out, say, in higher divisions, Rugby East, things like that. Certainly in the Great Midwest as well. But with Memphis, they're going to have to find that kind of competition. Could they hold themselves to a certain kind of standard and just blow through and be great anyway? Sure. Also a small conference, mostly because, again, a hybrid. We've got a lot of conferences where there are D3 teams playing D2. The Cardinals, Virginia, very strong this year, already beaten Towson and Georgetown out of the mark. Well, that's kind of a signal right there. So Virginia, I think, has probably got the Cardinals locked up. Great Lakes, more competition there, and I think that we see Central Michigan. Can't even say the word Michigan. Central Michigan, Ferris State, for example, they often are challenging. Grand Valley State University, however, I think is going to win your conference there. They have a solid team, good numbers, good recruits, good returners. All those little boxes are checked. Bam, 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 bam. So yeah, Great Lakes would be Grand Valley. And finally, in the High Peaks, probably Montana State. The High Peaks often can be kind of a surprising conference. So, might be wrong there, but that's the 5th one I got. So I would say, look, if you want to pencil in who you think are going to be conference winners in Division 2, IUP, Memphis, Virginia, Grand Valley State, and Montana State, I would say would. I've got 3 conferences where I kind of have a pretty good idea, but I'm not absolutely sure. So that would be, first of all, the Liberty. Marist has been very solid, very strong for some years now. I am impressed with the RPI team, and I wouldn't have said that, say, a couple of weeks ago, but then you see the results, and RPI was challenging with Albany last year, and it's sort of back and forth, and this year they beat them pretty heftily. Their numbers are fantastic at RPI, so they have an opportunity perhaps to get back to being conference champions. They were tri-state champions at one point. Now everybody's in the Liberty. Marist probably the front runner, but not a clear front runner. I'd say the same with the Southern. Another hybrid league where we've got D3s and D2s, D1s all playing together, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. UNC Wilmington did beat UNC Charlotte over the weekend, so kind of like that. East Carolina beat UNC Chapel Hill, so that's the same kind of issue there, right? So Division 2 teams beat Division 1 teams. So yeah, I'm not sure. We're going to see those teams play together soon enough. That's great. Let's do that. And finally, in the Northern Lights, another hybrid league, another league where we've had a team out of Division 2 do quite well. That would be Mankato, Mankato State, Minnesota State University Mankato, however you want to call them. However, historically, for a long time, Minnesota Duluth had been the stronger team. I still think Mankato's a stronger team, but I'm just not sure right now. It's such a small schedule. It's so difficult. So I'm just going to put that in the, I'm pretty sure but not sure category. One more in the probably but not sure. I think I could have put them up in the category of, it's a sure thing, would be Gateway. I'm probably leaning toward St. Louis University. Southern Illinois is still in there with a shot, so I think that's going to be the big clash between those two. St. Louis University, though, looked so good in their opener against Washington University, and Washington's a very good team, actually. So probably SLU, but I put them in the middle category because Southern Illinois is still out there. So what that leaves us with are three conferences that I think it's kind of wide open. Your first one is the NARC, the new NARC. You want to be a NARC. North Atlantic Rugby Conference, and they just started, so we've had 2 weeks of competition. Not everybody's even played 2 games because they have 7 teams, so somebody's not playing at some point on the weekend. So UMass Lowell started off their season well with a big win, but they've only had one, for example. So I've got 5 teams that are still in the mix with Norwich, Vermont, New Hampshire, UMass Lowell, and Coast Guard. Now, Coast Guard just lost to New Hampshire, but the score was 7-5. It certainly is with a playoff potential for NARC teams, or even just sort of somebody losing on the road, things like that. Coast Guard is not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. I could probably say the same about Norwich. A very good team, always sort of like builds toward what they're trying to get. They did lose to Vermont early, and I probably will say that Vermont has to be your front runner at the moment. But Norwich can still perfectly capable of moving forward. Probably has more depth than a lot of teams, and if a team does pick up some injuries, trip up, then they'll be there to pounce. New Hampshire certainly is in the mix, having won big in their opener, and then 7-5. Wow, crazy game. And that so all of those teams have the potential. I guess I'm saying that Maine and Boston University are out of it. Usually, what happens is those kinds of teams play spoiler very, very well. Maine had a great year last year, and I think just graduated a lot of players. But right now, I've got 5 teams who still have that possibility. And right now, coming up relatively soon will be UMass Lowell, University of New Hampshire game. I think that's going to be a big one. And when New Hampshire plays Vermont, same deal. Vermont front runner, just barely. In Great Midwest, that's another one. And this one I could have put in that second category because really I'm thinking Northern Iowa. But it's because I have 2 other teams I'm thinking about. Is Whitewater back at that level? Well, they were beaten pretty comprehensively by Northern Iowa, who are just sort of, they're one of those teams that finds teams to challenge themselves. So while I think Northern Iowa is there, what about Marquette? What about Illinois State? Those 2 teams are going to be challenging to see if they can push forward. Now, we've seen it in the past that a team that doesn't win Great Midwest still does very well playoff-wise, and I think that's probably going to happen this year. Northern Iowa, though, front runner with 2 teams chasing them, and we just have to see more from them. And finally, the MARC, Mid-Atlantic Rugby Conference. Well, Georgetown started pretty well, but they did lose to Virginia in a non-conference game. We did see this, but they're winning big. So are they the front runner? Well, Villanova's pretty good too. Villanova and Georgetown have been sort of vying for this. And I think the team that is going to come up and challenge both of them potentially is Scranton. So we will perhaps see a 3-way chase for this. So if I'm looking at that, I've kind of stumbled on sort of a playoff bracket. It's terrible because it's so early in the season, and I would really like to see somebody come out of nowhere and just surprise somebody, and that can happen. But that's what I've seen so far. I think it's been a few years now. Division Two is sort of up and down and had the COVID shakes and things like that. But what we're looking at right now is we've got a few conferences where it seems like there's a real front runner right now. A few conferences where there's been kind of a front runner with one team chasing them, and then a few that are wide open. And I think right now the most wide open has to be the NARC. But the MARC is also pretty wide open. So that's what I got for you. Thanks for our sponsors. Thanks for watching. Thanks for our supporters. See you next time.